really disappointed and hurt. More hurt with New South Wales Police because on the 2nd of January, was it the 2nd or third, or the early hours of the 3rd? 2nd of January, we'll go with. When I called them, the lady on the other line of Rose Bay Police could hear Giovanni screaming at me through the phone. I said, "Can you hear that?" Like, I walked into the kitchen and I walked into the lounge room and he was screaming at me. He was following me. Police could have had my back today because why wasn't the police officer who actually took the phone call there in court? Why did they let Giovanni sit there and lie? She was on the phone to me, Rose Bay Police, when I rang them, and she could hear what he was saying. Police failed me again today. And I was just ridiculed and there's not enough evidence. It's like, not enough evidence. I was on the phone to you. You heard him. You heard him. You put me through hell. Why don't you have the police officer who took the phone call here in court? The one who heard what was going on. Why don't you have her statement? I said, "Can you hear? Like, are you recording? Can you hear this?" Why don't you have her here? She heard him abusing me. And you just let him sit there and lie when I was on the phone to police and he was abusing me and she heard it. She heard it. And you just let me be, as a witness, stand there and be put through hell and lied about again. Again. And then all you could say is, "Oh, we can move forward from this." Move forward from it. Again, you assholes of police did wrong by me. Again. Move forward from it. Move forward from Giovanni committing fraud behind my back, and I had no idea when I was doing the right thing when I got mugged and robbed on my way home from work November 30, 2007, but I wasn't with Giovanni then. I didn't know him then. And I went back to my studies and I was back doing other side jobs and I did work for Steve Hatchett and Mitri for 3 years at Chili Pip designing lounges. I studied at Enmore Design Centre. Then I studied at Coca Republic Design School that's affiliated with Enmore Design Centre. And all this time I had no idea what Giovanni, after I met him, so since 2009, he started this, I met him in August 2008, he saw an opportunity and he scammed and schemed and lied. So you being New South Wales Police let him get away with that because that's a massive criminal offence. And you did. And you let him get away with this even though you were on the phone to me while he was abusing me. You were on the phone to me. And you sat there. You sat there while I was getting belittled, even though your police officer was on the phone to me when I was getting abused. And she could hear it. And you didn't have that police officer in court as a witness. So he forged my signature on several documents and then made up stories that why he had to do this, blaming me again. The same thing he did when I was studying at Enmore Design Centre in 2009 and Giovanni went off screwing around and was caught by me and, because he was caught out yet again, which is what always happens when he gets caught out on something, he becomes violent. Same way he was violent towards Brett Aikenhead in 2015, which he was. I would defend Brett Aikenhead here. Brett didn't deserve that. Giovanni snapped and was abused. He punched Brett. He punched Brett Aikenhead. And I saw it and I was worried about Brett. And I said to Brett, I said, "You see, this is what I get. I treat it all the time." And then Giovanni runs off and he's all smiles to people going, "Oh," and he puts blame on other people. And as much as I don't like Brett Aikenhead's character, that's not here or there. Because I don't like Brett Aikenhead's character because I don't like what behaviour Brett Aikenhead does. But in the end of the day, that's not here or there. What he feels about me and so forth, it's not here or there because I didn't go out with the guy. I brought my dog from him and had sex with him. He was nothing more than a fuck buddy fling. But like I said, like the way, like that night when Gio punched him, it's because Gio, like the way when he gets, I really can't stand Brett Aiken. I made it very apparent to him when he wanted more with me. So it's not here or there. But, like he did, like Gio did, punch Brett when he gets caught out. Anyway, in 2009 he did. He got caught out. He upended the marble, the pink marble top coffee table. He smashed the marble. He broke the 3-legged pedestal. He broke the back of the music chair. I'd have paid to get that fixed. He broke the little china cabinet that I had my teacups in, which I've had fixed, and I gave that cabinet to Joan, my cousin. I left the music chair, the Victorian music chair, after I paid to get it fixed, but I had it over in America with me. It's left in America, but the 3-legged pedestal I've still got in storage. I hope so. I kept that because he broke that, and then when he was picking up the pieces of the broken marble, the pink marble, he cut his hand. So he cut his hand in 2009, went to Sydney Hand Hospital to get stitches in it, and he calls his mother when he's getting stitches in his hand. And he says, I just know how to fight, and I cut my hand, I'm getting stitches in my hand. And I turned around to him and said, can you tell your mum the full truth? Because you smashed up my place. You were caught out. You was caught screwing around. You were abusive towards me. It wasn't the other way around. The same thing in 2011. My car was parked on Young Street. He had the shits with me. I don't know what it was this time. Maybe I told him off about one of the bullshit stories he was telling. 2011. Because that's when I was leaving him, because I was getting all my application together to apply for the green card. And that's when I did leave him in 2011 as well. And he smashed my car door. The hinge of the Alfa Romeo, the black, I've got the receipt somewhere where I paid to have it fixed. He smashed my car door. He then walked up to the lights, the corner of Young Street, so the ones that also go across the Marlborough Street and Cleveland Street. And he walked up there. I said, don't go back to my place. You can go back to the share house you came from. I said, don't go back to my place. I crossed the road, went inside 392 Cleveland Street, the main front door, and he tried to push his way in, and I pushed him out and closed it. And then he was a smart ass and rang the police and said I pushed him. And I said, oh yeah, I pushed him out the door. He was trying to get in, and they arrested me. It's like, but he was trying to get into my apartment, and he was kicked out. So there's that. It's like, he won't ever tell the truth. The same thing, he wouldn't tell the full truth in December 2016. He wouldn't tell the truth what happened there. He wouldn't tell the truth when I kicked him out I kicked him out of my place the 19th of December 2015. That's when he told people I had him in a headlock, which that wasn't the case. And all this bullshit and so forth. And then he told people I was suicidal, and he was making up stories about, Brett shouldn't be the person I should be hanging around with and all this crap. It's like, what's it do with anyone? You're just bitter and jealous because I left you and I wasn't accepting you back. And that's all it was, because normally in the past I leave him and it'll cool down. I accept him back, and I kept saying, no, this time that's it. I was staying away, and I stayed away for 6 months. And that's it. And he knew it was over. And that was my apartment, my rent subsidized apartment with my expensive furniture, not the shit furniture that Giovanni has. Not shit. This is shit. This is cheap copper art shit. I had expensive furniture with Maker's Marks, heavy solid timber, solid mahogany cabinets that I had from auction houses that were from Booth Street, which was Raffer and Keller in Leichhardt, and Lawson's that used to be down near the roundabout in Glebe. I had good, solid, heavy... Christ, it took 5 people to lift the bottom part of the big cabinet, the glass cabinet I had that come across in 2 pieces. My sofa, I can lift Giovanni's sofa by myself. My sofa, you'd have to, 2 guys on each end. It was solid timber. I had beautiful furniture, I had beautiful assets and belongings, and he loved living in with what I had. It was my BMW that I worked hard for, but I had all this back when I was on good salary at Star Casino. That's why I had it, all the savings from my investment property. It was my money, my assets and my belongings, and he liked living in it, and he knew that he had nothing, and if he wasn't living there with me in my rent subsidized apartment, That's it. That's what it was. That was the truth. This is why I rang my mum. For me to call my mother, then something has to be really wrong. Seriously, if you knew my relationship, I wouldn't be ringing her unless I really needed her help, because I wouldn't be wanting her involved in stuff. And I rang her on the 19th and said, Mum, this isn't true. And it can be easily manipulated, because here's the the reason why. There is a sandstone spot that I go, and Giovanni knows I go there to meditate. He knows this because Agnes Rappaport and myself used to do this. After I was mugged off work, she used to talk about places and so forth. It was called something. And I said, "Oh, look, I always go, and I need to hear the rocks, the waves crashing the rocks and so forth." I said, "So you want to come up to where I used to go with Alfio Bonanno?" This is before the fence was there in Watson's Bay. I mean, we used to go to Cafe Roma and then go up there, and there's this sandstone spot where the cannon used to sit, and I used to go and sit out on that, and now you can't get to it because they've blocked it with a fence. She goes, "Well, we can't go." Oh, I didn't know this back then. We've wrapped. They've only just. I don't know when they put the fence there. And Agnes used to say to me, "Oh, we can't go there because it's too far, but we'll go to Clovelly and go and sit there and meditate, like do your like." It was like another thing she used to do, but like talking about like to bring back, because after I was mugged, they used to say that you get anxious from being mugged, so you want to it's called something. And I said, "Oh, okay." Like when I used to sit, so I used to bring up things like, well, Nan's, and I call it Nan's place. So when I used to go and sit out in the front courtyard of Nan's place, but I'm talking about the one that was owned by Uncle Fred. So 43 Piper Street, Leichhardt. And the bedroom window was, so the terraced house. The bedroom window was behind me. I used to sit with my back there, and I used to look across the park, and I used to sketch the viaducts across the park and things like. She goes, "Yeah, things like this." So I'm like, "Oh, okay," because that used to, so, being one of my most enjoyable times being there in Leichhardt around the terraced house. Nan Lola used to hate it. She loved her grandmother's house in Bellevue Hill, but it's actually her grandmother's sister's house. And this is how this sort of started, and so forth. And she goes, "Well, we'll go to Clovelly." And I've gone to Clovelly on the edge of the cliff there with Agnes Rappaport and, meditate. Like, it was my, obviously some good times of my childhood. Like, maybe, I don't know, when Pop used to go cliff fishing, I used to go with him, and he used to come home and say to Lola, "I'm never taking Justin fishing again. He doesn't shut up." But, I don't know, but that's what it was. So it was meditation. And Giovanni knew that. He knew that. So he knew that you could also, if you wanted to be a narcissistic, control freak and vindictive, if you know so much about a person, you could easily twist situations into be sinister and blow them out of proportion. And that's what he did. But then he turned around to me and said, "Oh, no, it wasn't me. I was just repeating what Brett said." I'm like, "Well, between you and Brett, you were both being assholes towards me, because I didn't want anything to do with either one of you. I just wanted to be left alone with my apartment that I worked hard for, with my assets, my belongings, my dog. I just wanted to be single. I had my car, I had everything I enjoyed in life. If you wanted to hang out, you could hang out. I was all settled. I'd recovered. I think that's the other thing as well. By 2015, I had pretty much maintained and recovered from the injuries from when I was mugged and robbed November 30, 2007. And Giovanni could see that, because I was doing more. And that's the truth. And then when I was ready, it was like, by 2015, everything was perfect, except for there was only one episode of being misinterpreted. And that was back in December 2014, but I was on prednisone. I had really bad lactic levels in my blood. And the only way to try to lower it was with high quantities of prednisone. And then I was on high quantities of prednisone, and it looked like I was anxious, and I'm like, no, this isn't anxious. I know. So my heart was jumping down my chest. It was prednisone. And then I got pneumonia from it in 2016. I was like, so there were the other issues that were caused, but apart from that, I was like, well, things were moving forward again, and I had my assets, had my belongings. I was single. I was in my apartment, but then the trouble was getting caused. He could have turned around. So I did. I told Mum all this. I told Amanda all this. And the thing is, when I was lied about in 2015, I ended up being monitored and surveillance by organisations, and I did. I'm telling the truth. I was monitored and surveillance by organisations, and the same fuckwits to go, oh, paranoid. It's like, well, why do I have a document that I've requested and paid for from the Freedom of Information Act? Or why do I have information where you've tried to make me out to be aggressive, which you have? Or when I played a prank and so forth in 2017, because I know you guys were monitoring and surveillancing me since 2015, why have I got that written down? Because that's the truth. Like, or the bullshit. Like I said, the argument when I kicked Giovanni out of that was the 19th of December 2015. I told him to fuck off. That was it. I had it. And that hurt him. He was pissed off and he was angry. I'd had it. He'd just... So, yeah, I kicked him out. And then between him and Brett and what they were saying that wasn't true, then it fucked me up. And then I was monitored and surveillance, and by 2017 I had a gut full of it. So that's the truth. He could have told the truth. He knew he was damaging my life, but in 2016 he even had to drag Matt O'Rourke into it, and he was getting the attention, and he loved the attention. He was going up to people like Matt O'Rourke going, oh, you've got no idea what I've gone through, and Matt O'Rourke's got text messages back going, oh, I can only imagine all this bullshit. It's like, but this is what Giovanni feeds off. He feeds off the fact that he's lying, and you lot are all coming up going, oh, poor Giovanni. He's been doing it for years. You go, oh, poor Gio. Oh, yes, it must be so hard putting up with Justin. It's like, but that's it. He feeds off it. He feeds off it, and you're damaging my life. Can you stop doing it? Can you make him held accountable for something that he's done, because all I do is get lied about? No, I'm the aggressive person when I don't have an aggressive bone in my body. And then he uses the fact, that's the other thing, he will then twist it around and say, oh, it's because he was abused by his mother, but I wasn't abused by my mother. That has been twisted to something really sinister. What happened was, when my mum went for a period of time, and we've already discussed this in the past, it was really bad when she was with her second husband. And that's the truth. It was. But, and this is where this gets twisted, like, oh, that's why you don't like Tamworth. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because Mum's second husband moved into our family house in Rooty Hill, and it was going on since then. So why did I still like that place? That's now demolished and there's a housing estate there. Like our big house that we had in Rooty Hill, that's got demolished years ago in the 90s. And the land and the house and everything's been turned into a housing estate. Like, why not like that? You're not making, like, these people don't make sense. They're just grasping at straws and trying to make me out to be somebody I'm not. And it's the same thing with that freaking crap to do with Stephen Babbage. Seriously, that's not true. And that's known that it wasn't true. It's even in evidence in court. I'm not even going to get into that. But then me being a smart ass to people, and because the way my mum's sisters always bitch about me and so forth, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this. No, I didn't. That's like me being a smart ass when idiots was carrying on about stuff to do with what I have with assets and belongings and so forth. And they're like, oh, how'd you afford this? I'm like, oh, I sold cannabis at high school. No, I didn't. Are you insane? I would have got flogged, and that's not in a bad thing. That's not abuse. That's because that's discipline. That's a difference. No, I didn't. And where would I have got it from? That was me just being a smart ass. Seriously, I went to a private school. You couldn't fart without going on detention. Like, my God, no, I didn't do something like that. And why would you think I did something like that? And who would think I did something like that? And especially when I'm saying that as a joke and people are laughing, so it's clearly been said as a joke. So why, when I'm saying something as a joke, has that been twisted seriously? Even when I said stuff as a joke about Stephen Babbage, why was that twisted to be serious? It's like, that's not true. That isn't true. And can we go and have a look at photos of me when I was a teenager? Because I was a twink. Can we have a look at photos of me going right up into 2017? Because I was always thin. I've only got fat now because of what's just been put through, because of stress that I've been put through, because police, because of what they've done to me and made me into a person I'm not, when my mum could have actually helped with that and got me a solicitor back in 2015. She could have. Seriously, my mother missed the chance of actually being a decent mother by doing the right thing by her child in December 2015. Put a stop to this. I can't. And when people say, oh, you got to move on from the past, it's like, because I don't speak to my mother, and that has nothing to do with anything of her marriage with Mark Rackley. If her second husband, if I walk past Mark Rackley tomorrow, I would walk up to my stepfather and say, oh, hey, Mark, how you going? Mark I saw at his daughter's, and that's everything. So his daughter they had with my mother, Faith Rackley. Yeah, Faith's my half sister. She's also got a half brother, Daniel Rackley, and other half sisters like Belinda Rackley and Kimberly and Michelle from Mark's first marriage. But when she had her son, Mark was at the christening, and I was up chatting to Mark. I was up chatting to Mark's mother as well. And there was nothing wrong because we'd moved on. And I've had people like Giovanni was astounded that he goes, I can't believe you're talking with all the stories I've heard about the way your stepfather treated you and your mother. I'm like, oh, that's in the past. He was the one hanging on to it. He's the one hanging on to it, making up stories. And I'm there going, oh, yeah, but that was years ago. I've seen Mark plenty of times since then, like when we had functions. That's no big deal. That's years ago. That was to do with Mum and her second husbands and their relationship, and it was bad. But it wasn't my entire life. I mean, they were only married from 1988 until they separated in 1994. That's not a long time. This is why I keep trying to tell Mum, can you stick to the facts? Because otherwise, and she didn't understand the last 9 years. I'm like, I'm telling you, stick to the facts and dates, because things are being twisted and made out something they're not. It's like, oh, you don't like Faith Rackley because you don't like her father. It's like, no, I don't like Faith Rackley because I found out Faith Rackley did crystal meth. So don't start bullshit. As soon as I found out that happened with her new boyfriend, the father of her second child, I was furious. That's why. You know my stance on drugs. I've always had zero tolerance to drugs and alcohol. That's why. Not because I don't like her father. And because she's a fucking little bitch that's been spoiled. That's why. Not because of, oh, you don't like Mark Rackley. Well, I don't like Mark Rackley, but he's only my stepfather. Seriously, it's not like I've had people come and go, well, how can you look at that? So like in the way you look at it, I'm like, because he wasn't my father. I think if I had been bashed by and it wasn't that bad for Mark, it was more worse for my mother. But I think, like, when they were going through the issues and they lost the daughter together and all this stuff was going on. And anyway, I'm not going to get into it with that. But I think it's been twisted. Because I'll make sure I close the window because I forgot how things echo here. So, and not saying that Mum's great, because she wasn't. She was abusive. But she's not naturally abusive. Like, she wasn't abusive. Or she was cold. I don't even know how to explain this. Because when we were kids, when we were with our parents, my mother, Carol Purdy, and my father, Mark Fleming, my mother is not nurturing. So the nurturing never came from her. It came from her mother, Lola. So I had Lola Purdy, my grandmother. I had Reg Purdy, my grandfather. And I had my father, Mark Fleming. If we were ever... Look, if I woke up with a nightmare, I never went to my mother. I went to my father. My dad was more nurturing than my mother. That's just the way it is. My mother, it feels odd. If my mother says, I love you, I'm like, it feels creepy. Like if she gave me a hug and kiss, I'm like, it doesn't feel natural with her. And that's okay. Every relationship is different. Like for me, if she came and gave me a hug, and it feels awkward. It's like, it doesn't flow. But my dad, I walk up and hug my dad. I'm close to my dad. Not like that way. So I don't get it. And I was close to my nan. There's different people. So, and yeah, mum was abusive. But it's been twisted to be something that it's not. Because Gio used, I'm going on with this video, but he used that as in to say, oh, it's because of this. It's like, no, it's because you lied. It's not because of this. It's because you lied. And if I go back to exactly what Jane Harrison told me about you, when you would walk into Mark Gilchrist's apartment and slam the door and throw things around, and that's what, I need air. I can't keep it so blocked. And that's what Jane Harrison told me about you. So in 2009, when she was like, just be careful, Giovanni, which she did because when he was with Mark, and Mark was her friend, so Jane Harrison's lovely, and I can't believe that. But she was. I thought she was lovely, and then anyway, Gia, ruined that. But Mark Gilchrist, which was his boyfriend, and she said that and he's the one that told me that he was having a breakdown in August 2008 because of the way Mark Gilchrist had treated him. And that's what he said. And he moved in with Paula. No, he told me he was having a breakdown. He actually tried, I think, to claim compensation for having a breakdown because of the way his boyfriend treated him. So I'd like to know how much money he's got out of this with what he said about me. Because when I met Giovanni, I felt so sorry for him because he was living in a share house with nothing, and his boyfriend, Mark Gilchrist, must have been this horrible guy. And then I met him, it's like, well, he wasn't. But, And then Jane Harrison said to me, he used to go into Mark's apartment and throw things around and slam the door with the shits. He was doing the same thing with me. The difference is that I told him to stop because you're breaking my stuff. And my furniture's expensive. It's not some cheap shit. And he doesn't like being told. He's never had to. He's a golden child Mormon that his parents, like, they just bottle feed him even to date. It's like he can't do anything wrong. He doesn't have to take responsibility. It's like he had all these debt and then he blames people. It's like, no, you were struggling in debt when I met you. You had nothing. You had nothing, and you were an ice user that used to get fisted. You lived in a share house. You had a mattress, an Xbox, and a TV. Your entire life fitted into a 3-door hatchback, and you moved into my place, and then you lied to groups and organizations about me so you could get ahead, and that's exactly what happened. But you destroyed my life in the process. And you knew in the last 9 years how much damage it was causing me in 2 countries, especially the bullshit you told George Jacobs. You knew what it was doing. And especially how you tried to make me out to be a person I wasn't from 2015. And you did. So, and he did. And he could have told the truth today. He sat there. But the worst thing is like, who's the one to blame? I need air. I can't stand being interrupted with air. But who's the one to blame? Giovanni, who sat there lying, or police who sat there and didn't stand up, or police who didn't do their investigation to say, like, the arseholes of police again. It's like, but you were on the female police officer was on the phone to me, heard him, and they didn't have her there as a witness. So you just left me sitting there, even though I'm telling the truth and I'm getting abused and belittled and called a lie and all this stuff. It's like, but you were on the phone to me. The police was on the phone. She heard it. You heard it. And you've just sitting there doing nothing. He'll get away with the fraud. He'll get away with the forgery. He'll get away with the abuse. He'll get away with putting me under duress. He'll get away with this. He'll probably even get damages paid. He'll get away with it again because you let him do it. And he knows he can keep doing it. And he did it. I'm literally sitting there thinking, I can't believe this. The police know because you took the phone call. I walked into the kitchen. I said, he's following me. Can you hurry up? I walked into the lounge room and he wouldn't leave me alone. I said, can you hear him? Can you hear him? And they could hear him abusing me. He was abusing me. He came home after being a week and so out, getting fisted and probably smoking crystal meth like he does with his deadbeat friends. And they all do it. And then get friggin' using big dildos like telegraph poles and getting fisted in the ass. That's not who I am as a person. And that's who he is. And that's the truth. He came home all shitty like he used to do this when he lived with me because he was coming down. And then I was on the phone over what he had done, trying to get still my credibility restored and saying, yes, but I wasn't here in March 2013. So can you at least remove the fact that you've got me down as being in my apartment in Sydney, depressed and suicidal in March 2013, and you're an the organisation won't remove this information. I'm there going, but I can't be in two places at once. I wasn't in the country. Just check it with immigration. I know what Giovanni said, but it's a complete lie. I'm not in the country. I know what George Jacobs has done, but it's a complete lie. I've been telling you this. Can't you just correct this because I'm not in the country? There's my passport stamped. I'm not in the country. I can't be in two places at once. And these organisations have refused to correct it. And then Giovanni's attacking me. I'm like, and I went to my phone. I'm like, this document that you've done, this where you've forged this document, this is what I'm trying to fix. The damage you've caused, which is still going on today because of your forgery and what you've done to get ahead by lying about me. And this is what I said, and the people and groups and organisations that you've involved in my life since you lied about me in 2015, and he pushed me. He lunged at me and pushed me, and I've walked in here, and I called the police straight away. I've walked in here into the kitchen, and he's abusing me. I've walked into the lounge room, and he's abusing me, and the police officer heard it, and they didn't have her there today. They didn't have her as a witness. I'm there going, I'm looking at the police officer, I'm looking going, are you kidding me? Like I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth because if you just grab that police officer who took the call on the 2nd of January this year from Rose Bay Police, she heard it all. She heard it all, so I don't have to stand here as a witness and be belittled all day to 4 o'clock, getting abused and called everything under the sun, when you could have had your police officer here who said, well, yeah, I heard it all over the phone. I heard Giovanni abusing Justin over the phone. There we go, done. It's that you let him lie. You did that. You know he was lying. You made out that, something else. Like the way his solicitor just attacked me. It's like, this is great. You're the police and you've just got nothing. No witnesses here when the best witness was the person who was on the other end of the phone. You couldn't have that police officer here. And you let me go through hell the entire day as a witness. And he would do it. He would get away with it. He'll get away with it because I'm already labelled as a character of a person I'm not. So he'll get away with it. He will. And you let him because you have. He got away with the fraud because as far as you're concerned, even though I mentioned to police when I found out that my signature's been forged in all these documents, and I'm like, I was freaking out going, oh my God, what's been done? And like, I will admit, like, yes, like, first of all, there was the issue with, way Giovanni was telling my family bullshit. And that's why I sort of initially left him and so forth, and the trouble with my mother going up there for Easter and so forth. And then to go through all the documents, because it was after Easter that I found the documents. And that, and Brett Aikenhead was one that were tidying up my study. Giovanni was in Adelaide. We're tidying up my study and he saw the document. And I'm like, that's my signature. And I can pull the documents out. I've got a copy of them all. I'm like, that's my signature. I was like, and there was a shitload of documents with my signature forged on them. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I'm going back, and this has been since I met the guy. There's so many documents with my signature has been forged, and it's my signature on one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that's when I found it. I stupidly confronted him, and I had mentioned it to police, and I mentioned it to his employer. It was in 2016, and I said, he's been taking time off work, saying it's for me, but I wasn't in the country. And he's faked a document and put my signature on it. That's what started this. So then Giovanni involved mental health and these organisations and made up stories about me and discredited me to get away with, saying, oh no, it's a lie. Justin's this, Justin's that. This is in 2016 he did this. Well, 3 years later, they found out that I was telling the truth and they sacked him. But in 2016, I told the police. They didn't believe me. Now, 3 years after that, he was sacked from his work. And police, again, thank you, New South Wales Police, said, oh, no, he's been dealt with, but, he got sacked, so he's already punished. I mean, hang on a minute. But if you had have taken me seriously in 2016, because you wouldn't take a formal statement from me, you thought I was making it up. But you would, if you had taken a formal statement from me in 2016, so before he was fired, he would be arrested for fraud and have faced fraud charges. That's what would have happened. But you didn't believe me. But 3 years later, he gets sacked, and that's okay, that's enough. That's not enough. That's not enough. I had my life destroyed because of New South Wales Police, and you won't do anything. The same as what they did today when they could have sat there and went, hang on a minute, well, we were on the phone, the Justin, we heard everything. You won't do anything. You labelled me as a person I'm not, and you just let someone who's just done this damage, and then you go, oh, we're moving forward. Moving forward, you cunts destroyed my life. My money, my assets, everything I've worked hard for, and he will get away with it. He's the likeable character that will get away with it. And all because what? Because instead of my mother being a decent human being to stand up for her God fucking son, like for fuck's sakes, Carol. In 2015, your son calls you, ever be a fucking decent mother and do the right thing? Get your fucking son a solicitor? Do the right thing for once. But no. Would she? No. Because she would only do something if it meant that, she can gain from it, which meant, well, you'll have to do this for me. Or you're going to have to come and move here. No. No, your son's asking to have lies corrected before he damages his life. Telling you the truth of what's going on, can you put a stop to it? Can you stop these organisations harassing me? I want my life back, please. Can you leave me alone? Seriously. And this all went on. All because some prick had his nose out of joint and basically, and I would say this even looking around going, all right, what I worked hard for, if he couldn't live in it, so if he couldn't be there in my rent subsidised apartment with my money, my assets, my furniture, my belongings, my car, then no one was going to have it. And that's it. Damaged my life enough so I wouldn't have anything. And what would my mother care about that? Because if my life was damaged enough, then my mother always thinks that I would run up to her for help. Well, I won't. I won't ever. And that's what it was. Instead of just being a decent mother and telling the truth. Like, seriously. And that's what's gone on since 2015. And everything I said, yeah, please. Oh, well done. Well done, you cunts. You were on the phone and you heard him. You you should have been there as a witness today. Not letting me sit there when I'm telling the truth and you know I'm telling the truth because you were on the phone. You were goddamn well on the fucking phone and you heard him. But I'm the one that got just destroyed again. That's okay. The same thing happened in 2016 when you didn't believe me that he forged my signature in fake documents, but I was telling the truth, and then 3 years later he gets fired for it, and you go, oh, that's okay, he's fired. But if you had have made a formal statement in 2016, he would have been arrested for the fraud and forging your signature. Well, you wouldn't take a formal statement because you didn't believe me. Do you see what New South Wales Police did? That's what New South Wales Police did. I did say the truth in 2016. So I found out that he's been committing fraud and he's been forging my signature. This information here is not true. Yep, I wasn't believed. I contacted his work. 3 years later, after I had my life continuously destroyed for 3 years because I had made this complaint about Giovanni forging my signature, faking documents, committing fraud. 3 years later, he lost his job for it. I have the documents to prove it. And that was enough for police. But if police had have accepted 2016, what I said was the truth, because he lost his job because of it 3 years later, and if they took a formal statement, he would have been charged with fraud and forgery in 2016. But because New South Wales Police chose not to believe me, because nothing was done, there was no investigation, that was it, it was let go. 3 years later, when he kept continuously doing it, he was caught. He didn't stop. He kept it going. And in 2019, he got caught and he was sacked. And New South Wales Police sit back and go, oh yeah, that's enough. How is it enough? Because you kept it going for 3 years and you destroyed my life. So how is it enough? That's not enough. He gets sacked. I told the truth and I had my life ridiculed for telling the truth. And then you sit back and go, oh yeah, well he got sacked. There we go. No, you're cunts of people. You're just assholes of people. They just want to play your little bullshit games and let the most likable candidate get off and continuously get off. And that's it. And that's the truth. And today, seriously, the police officer who took the phone call on the 2nd of January, who heard everything, why wasn't she there in court? Because, yeah, we kept saying to her, can you hear him? He won't leave me alone, can you hear him? She heard everything. She dispatched police to come and arrest him. She heard it all. You should have had her in court as a witness. You didn't need me. You had a police officer as a witness who heard it all over the phone. She stayed on the phone with me until police came. You heard her she heard Giovanni when I was on the phone to her. She heard everything. That's all you needed was the police officer. You didn't do that. You didn't do the right thing by me.